Hi, welcome to Punchline Talks. My name's Mark Owen, and today we're talking politics and today's budget with Richard Graham, MP for Gloucester. He's there in the Commons Library as we speak. Nice to see you again, Richard.
Mark, hi, good to see you.
Well, interesting budget today, pretty low key, wasn't it? Doesn't seem to be that many rabbits out of the hat. What was the big thing that caught your eye that would help your constituents and help the business community in Gloucester?
So I think you're quite right. I don't think there was one big rabbit out of the hat to focus on. I think it's a deliberately measured, balanced budget that's been through all the process of getting the Independent Office of Budget Responsibility nod of approval. It does lots of different things for lots of different groups of people. The biggest one, of course, for anyone who's working is another 2% off national insurance. That's worth £450 per head. For the average salary, that's 900 quid off this year's taxation. And Jeremy Hunt highlighted the point that that means that on your income tax and national insurance, you've now got lower tax than at any time since 1975. So that's probably the key point, is this supports work. And that, of course, is a key part of attracting some of the 7.5 million people in the country of working age who are not yet working. Let's try and, give them lots of carrots to come into the workplace. But there's also plenty of other things there. So, for example, looking down at some of my notes, the child benefit changes, I think, will be very important to middle earners with children. This basically means that you now can claim child benefit until you earn 60,000, and there'll be a taper that takes you up to 80,000. But also over the next sort of 18 months, 2 years, they're going to rejig the whole system with HMRC. So actually it's household income that's measured, not individuals. I.e., if you and your wife both earn 49,000 quid, that's fine, you benefit from child benefit. But if one of you earns 100k and the other one nothing, then you don't get the child benefit. And that's probably worth 1,500 quid for every family. So it's quite a lot of money per child that's involved. So I think that will be popular with some people. But there are also plenty of other things, Mark, in there we could talk about, whatever really direction you want to go in, whether it's business or individuals.
Well, it was on the sort of business side, really, there was nothing for the hospitality trade. It's really suffering quite badly. Obviously, they've kept the business rates the same. But, businesses were screaming to see if they could cut tax, back down to the pandemic level of 5%. That didn't happen. The hospitality trade is in, it's very difficult for them at the moment.
Yeah, well, it's always difficult, isn't it? I mean, if he'd gone for putting back on fuel duty, which I think is what Labour have hinted that they would do, that would be an extra 13% on fuel prices. So he didn't go there, but that's obviously at a cost to public finances. He kept business rates the same. He did some good stuff to help the pubs. The full expensing is the key thing for investment. We will, I think, be announcing a massive new investment from one business in Gloucester fairly soon that takes advantage of that full expensing, which basically means that all the capital expenditure costs come before you pay any tax. So that will help Gloucester, as it has helped bring in people like Nissan, Microsoft, Google, and lots of other big companies to invest in the UK. And investment does lead to jobs. The investment as a share of GDP is up from 4% to 10.5%, and that will lead to a lot of important new jobs and higher salaries. So, really good news.
I thought the rise of the amount we pay in ISAs as well was quite interesting. The fact that
you 5k more to invest effectively in a British ISA, that'll be UK bonds and UK equities. So that's good for savers. Of course, there's also the capital gains tax for people with property. But those things I think will affect a smaller number of people amongst my constituents than the crucial things around national insurance, but also the continuation of the Housing Support Fund for another 6 months. That's really helpful. There's also an increase in the period for loans to be repaid. If you need help on getting, for example, a new boiler and so on, you've got an extra year to repay them back. So that's precious for quite a lot of people. And as we talked about, the suspension of sort of any increase in alcohol duties does help a lot of drinkers, a lot of hospitality trade people, a lot of pubs.
Well, I was also interested in the sort of life science investment side
Mm.
of things as well. There's a big gain for them if you invest in that. That was quite interesting, I felt.
Definitely. Yeah, the investment in what you might call key sectors of the future
Mm.
continues the trend that he had in the autumn statement. There's also quite a lot of sort of regional community funding that stretches into things like the Shetland launch pad for satellites. You know, people don't realize that a quarter of the world's satellites are UK satellites. It's
Mm.
amazing. We have biggest market share, but we've never launched them from the UK before. We had one effort in Cornwall last year, which didn't quite work. There was a problem with the Virgin equipment. But the plan is to launch them from both Scotland and Cornwall. And, you know, I've actually been sort of marketing that in the Far East, and it will definitely help British business. But yeah, Canary Wharf, Life Sciences, the Wilfer nuclear power station in Anglesey. There are a lot of those individual things. We don't benefit from those so much, but we might benefit from the small modular reactor decisions being taken if a plan by Rolls-Royce to have something in Gloucestershire and South Gloucestershire comes through, and
Yeah,
then
no, we
we'd
talked
still have
about.
a big
I mean,
role.
that's very, very exciting. If something like Rolls-Royce can go down there in Berkeley, that could be an absolute game changer for that area and for Gloucestershire as a whole.
I agree. It'll be good for us because, you know, there's so many people in Gloucester and Gloucestershire with nuclear expertise. So to maintain a leading role in nuclear, cyber, AI, higher education, aerospace, you know, these are great things and gives us quite a sort of diversified range of different jobs for pupils coming from schools. And you know, those education results, Mark, I'm just about to put out an e-news on education. Education results in Gloucester just massively changed from what they were 15 years ago.
Yes, the maths and English is very impressive. And as you know, my daughter's worked in the education sector, and our youngest still does. And I mean, they work extremely hard, extremely hard. I can't believe how much pressure they're on. But we won't go into that today. That's okay. Were you disappointed? You know, I mean, already the national media is having a go, saying, "No, there's no rabbit out of that hat. There's nothing to really get. There's no." There's no sort of election winner here, and already they're saying that the party won't be happy behind the scenes. Does that sort of make you a little bit blood boil? You know, that's the problem with what seems to be with the party recently. You know, not working together, not working. You're a cricket man. You've all got to work together. You all got to bat the ball together. You
Yeah,
know, does
I,
that? Do you find that frustrating?
well, I think, you know, realistically, the great thing about a democracy is that you're never going to have everybody agreeing on anything much at any one time. I mean, even my beloved wife doesn't agree with me more than half the time, I shouldn't think. So,
What?
you know, but what you hope is that you're producing things which over a longer period of time than a couple of days of the excitement of a sort of rabbit out of the hat announcement actually make real strategically important changes. So one of those that I would highlight, and I know that our local hospitals trust and the Health and Care Trust will be looking at it very closely too, is this significant 6 billion investment basically in digitalization to increase productivity in the NHS. Now, you might say, well, why does this matter? And the answer is this. Look, when I was last volunteering in the hospital, and you know I volunteer there every year, I was doing a stint in the archives. Well, I thought the archives might be some dusty old documents. Not at all. You've got absolute trolley loads of files coming in from every ward all the time, being manually put into another place to go on another trolley or somewhere else. So it's very old fashioned in that sense, Mark. And there's no question that you could improve productivity hugely by having much greater digitalization and use even of AI at some stages. So if we do that, we'll be able to get more out of our NHS without that feeling that many people have at the moment, which is you can go on pumping more money into the NHS, but what's the benefit do you get out of it? And that is what this investment is trying to do. He's trying to unlock 30 billion, if you like, of improved treatments and faster operations by using 6 billion of investment in productivity, which really is about digitalization. And I think that is a significant long-term investment and decision, and everybody will benefit that because we all need the NHS, don't we?
I totally agree. I mean, I remember them still faxing each other, and you know, one office have a different fax machine. I think even different hospitals have different computer systems. It was actually crazy. So I totally agree with you on that. And we all love the NHS. We just know it's very inefficient. That's the biggest problem there. But let's talk about the NHS, because obviously we're still hoping that Debenhams is all coming together quite nicely. Let's talk about the centre of the city. How's that looking on from what you're seeing at the moment?
So I've got a catch-up meeting with the Vice Chancellor of Gloucester University, I think on Friday from memory. And we'll go through all of that. I think there is a potential additional element that will go into the city campus, which could be very exciting. I don't think she or I will want to be in a position to announce it immediately, but I think it will add to the public benefit, which is there at the moment through the library that's being moved, through the health hub that's going to be setting up, and through the cafe, which will open out onto the terrace and so on. Those will be the main things that everybody will be able to access. The rest of the building will be fundamentally for the students, so health students, and then later I think there'll probably be some teaching students as well, and the staff. And I think if we can squeeze a little bit more public benefit out of that very big building, that will be really encouraging. And I'll wait to see what she's going to say on that. But it's also possible that things are going to be slightly delayed. And so, you know, I wait to hear a bit more about that. I mean, the problem with doing anything in Gloucester, as you know so well, is you dig in Gloucester and you get Glevum. You get, you know, Roman ruins or medieval bodies or something, and then the archaeologist rightly has to be involved, and we love the history of it, but it does tend to delay things a bit. And this was a big and quite old building, so we have to be prepared for the odd disappointment on the timing of things. But the direction of travel is fantastic, Mark, and I think that what's going on in the forum, you can see it physically so well because it's a new build. You haven't got some of the legacy issues. And as far as I know, everything is on time and on budget as well there.
Yeah, it's looking fantastic. All we need is a major tenant.
Yeah, I think we've got you know, one significant tenant already lined up, and I'll be doing a bit more work with them to try and help introduce more.
Okay, well, that's all we've got time for today, Richard. Thank you ever so much for joining us. I know on a busy day, but before you go, I've got to ask, because I've got your In Touch leaflet through my door actually the other day. There it is. Your local leaflet's come through, and obviously your so we say main competitor. I don't like to say main competitor, but there's Alex McIntyre. Sorry, he's putting his stuff through. So we're on the election track here. Has the Chancellor done enough, do you think, to help the party today?
Well, I think what he's done, Mark, is he's set out our stall in what I think is a very sensible, decent way. He's talked about the importance of investment, and you know, we've touched on how much more investment UK has attracted, particularly over the last 18 months, and the fact that that leads to growth, and that leads to more taxation, which pays for the services and also leads to more jobs. And although those are dull things to talk about, they do really determine what goes on, what happens to the public finances, how much tax individuals pay, and what sort of infrastructure we're going to get in Gloucestershire and Gloucester. So things like the A417 air balloon new dual road, which everybody can see now when they drive up Crickley Hill, and you can see the new road sort of happening in front of you. I mean, that is a 500 million project. That is a shed load of individual tax, but it will make a big difference to journey times and therefore to productivity and the speed at which people can see their friends and families, loved ones, and get to work. And so that's why we need to get the business of business right. And we are the party of business. That's why we're going to do everything possible to help businesses thrive, whether it's the 75% off business rates for small businesses, full expensing for big ones. You know, we'll do it. And I'm going to be putting out an e-news quite soon talking about how much investment is coming into Gloucester. I mean, I'm reckoning that there's over 300 million of both private and public investment that is coming in right now. That's a lot of money. It should lead to a lot of jobs.
I think Gloucester is definitely on the up. And I think with that, Richard, we'll call it a day. Thanks ever so much for talking to Punchline Talks. Good to see you again. I know you're busy, chap. Thank you.
Thank you very much.